The night the stars fell, Daniel Carter learned 3 terrible truths. His dead wife's voice was whispering from a dying alien ship. The vessel itself was alive. And worst of all, it wasn't just imitating her. It remembered. Now, as the thing wearing Lillian's smile steps closer, her eyes swirling with stolen memories, Daniel must face the impossible question. Is this a cruel trick or a second chance ripped from the jaws of the cosmos? One wrong move, and he'll lose her all over again. This time, forever. Please wait. Before we start, tap that card in the top right corner and smash that subscribe button. Right now, hit the notification bell so you're first in line when new stories land. Also, you can check the Alien Paradox playlist for more exciting stories. There's a question hidden in the pinned comment below. Crack the code by watching the complete story and answer the question. Alright, let's dive into the story. The night sky split open with a scream of metal, a sound so sharp it made Daniel Carter's teeth ache. He stood frozen in his backyard, the cold grass under his bare feet, a half-empty beer bottle slipping from his fingers. The bottle hit the ground with a dull thud, foam spilling over the dirt like a dying breath. Above him, a streak of fire tore through the clouds, a jagged scar of orange and white against the black. It wasn't a shooting star. It was too loud, too angry, too wrong. The ground shook as the thing, whatever it was, slammed into the woods behind his house with an earth-shattering boom. Trees trembled. Somewhere in the distance, a car alarm wailed. The air smelled like burning rubber and something else, something sharp and electric, like the air before a lightning strike. Daniel's heart hammered against his ribs. He should call the cops, or the fire department, or someone. But his phone was inside, and whatever had just crashed was close. Too close. Damn it, he muttered, snatching his flashlight from the porch. The beam cut through the darkness as he sprinted toward the tree line, his breath coming in ragged bursts. Branches clawed at his arms, leaves whispering secrets as he pushed deeper into the woods. The smell of smoke grew thicker, curling into his lungs. Then he saw it. The ship, if that's what it was, looked like something out of a nightmare. Sleek and jagged, its surface was blacker than the night, shimmering like oil under the moonlight. It wasn't smooth like metal. It moved, rippling like water, even though nothing touched it. And it was small, no bigger than a car, but it had torn through the earth like a bullet, leaving a crater of upturned soil and broken roots. Daniel's throat went dry. What the hell? A sound, a gasp, weak and strained, made him jerk his flashlight to the side. There, half buried in the dirt, was a woman. She was tall, her body encased in a form-fitting black suit that clung to her like a second skin, glowing with faint blue veins of light. Her silver-white hair spilled over her shoulders, shimmering like liquid metal. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and her face, Daniel's breath hitched. She was beautiful, not in a human way, in a way that made his stomach twist with something between awe and fear. Her eyes snapped open, black, endlessly black, like the void between stars, but flecked with tiny pinpricks of light. Daniel stumbled back, his boot catching on a root. Jesus! She moved faster than he could blink, sitting up in one fluid motion. Her head tilted, studying him like he was a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. "You're not one of them," she said, her voice low and melodic. "One of who?" Daniel's grip tightened on the flashlight. "Lady, what the hell are you? And what is that thing?" He jerked his chin toward the ship. She ignored his questions, her star-flecked eyes narrowing. "You live here. Alone." It wasn't a question. Daniel's pulse spiked. "How do you know that?" The alien girl, because that's what she had to be, stood slowly, her movements too graceful, too perfect, like a dancer who'd never missed a step in her life. She took a single step toward him, and the ship behind her shivered, its surface rippling like a living thing. Then, in a voice that wasn't quite her own, she whispered, "Daniel, you left the porch light on." His blood turned to ice. That was what Lillian used to say. Every damn night. His dead wife. The flashlight slipped from his fingers, hitting the ground with a dull clunk. No, he breathed. No, you can't know that. How do you know that? The girl's lips curved into a smile that was too familiar, too wrong. Because, she said softly, she's still here. And then the ship spoke. In Lillian's voice. Dan, help me. Daniel's legs gave out. The ship wasn't just alive. It was imitating her. Daniel's knees hit the damp earth with a sickening thud. His hands trembled as he stared at the shimmering ship, his wife's voice still echoing in his ears like a ghostly whisper. The alien girl watched him with those impossible eyes, her head tilted slightly as if studying a fascinating specimen. You're lying, he choked out, wiping sweat from his brow. That's not possible. Lillian's been gone for 2 years. The girl took another step forward, her movements unnaturally smooth. The blue veins in her suit pulsed faintly, casting eerie shadows across her sharp features. Time doesn't work the same where I come from, she said. Her voice had changed, less melodic now, more human. More like her. Daniel scrambled backward until his spine hit a tree. Bark dug into his skin through his thin t-shirt. Stay the hell away from me. The ship rippled again, its surface undulating like disturbed water. Then, clear as day, Lillian's laughter spilled from it. That warm, throaty chuckle he'd know anywhere. The sound wrapped around his heart like a vice. Remember our anniversary trip to the lake? The ship whispered in Lillian's voice. You forgot the tent poles. We had to sleep under the stars. Daniel's breath came in short, panicked gasps. That had been their private joke. Nobody else knew. The alien girl crouched in front of him, close enough that he could see tiny constellations swirling in her black eyes. Your pain calls to us, she murmured, like a beacon in the dark. What do you want? Daniel's voice cracked. She reached out slowly, her fingers hovering inches from his face. To understand, to become. The moment her skin brushed his cheek, Daniel's vision exploded with memories. Lillian smiling over coffee, Lillian dancing in the kitchen, Lillian's tear-streaked face in the hospital bed. He jerked away with a strangled cry. You're reading my mind? Not reading, the girl corrected. Remembering. Through you. The ship emitted a low hum that vibrated in Daniel's bones. Suddenly, the girl's form flickered, just for a second, and standing before him was Lillian, perfect down to the tiny scar above her left eyebrow. Daniel's stomach lurched. Stop it. The illusion dissolved, revealing the alien girl again. Does this form disturb you? She asked, genuinely curious. I can change it. Don't you dare. Daniel surged to his feet, his fists clenched. You have no right to use her like that. The girl studied him for a long moment. Your emotions are fascinating. So much stronger than we anticipated. A twig snapped somewhere in the dark woods. The girl's head whipped around, her body tensing like a coiled spring. The ship's hum rose in pitch, becoming almost frantic. They're coming, she said sharply. Who's coming? Before she could answer, a blinding white light erupted between the trees. The air crackled with static. Daniel threw up an arm to shield his eyes as the alien girl grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. Run, she ordered, her voice layered with something new fear. If they find you with me, they'll erase everything. The light grew brighter. Daniel heard heavy footsteps crunching through the underbrush. Who are they? He demanded. The girl's eyes locked onto his, the stars in them swirling faster. The ones who sent me to study you, she said. And they don't like failed experiments. The ship let out a piercing shriek, a sound like tearing metal, and suddenly the world tilted. Daniel felt himself being pulled forward as the alien girl yanked him toward the shimmering vessel. The last thing he saw before darkness swallowed him was the terrified look on her face as she whispered, "Trust me." Then everything went black. Daniel's consciousness returned with the sensation of cold metal against his cheek and a throbbing headache that pulsed behind his eyes. He groaned, pushing himself up on unsteady arms, his palms slipping on the smooth, glass-like floor. The air smelled sterile, like a hospital after heavy cleaning, with an underlying metallic tang that made his tongue feel heavy. "Welcome back." The alien girl's voice echoed strangely in the enclosed space. Daniel blinked rapidly as his vision cleared, revealing a circular chamber with walls that shimmered like liquid mercury. The girl stood a few feet away, her glowing blue veins pulsing faster now, casting flickering shadows across her angular face. "Where the hell are we?" Daniel rasped, his throat dry. "Inside," she said simply, gesturing to the walls. "Safe. For now." Daniel staggered to his feet, his knees threatening to buckle. "Inside what?" "Your spaceship." She tilted her head, considering. "Ship is an approximation. It's more like—" She paused, searching for the right word. "A second skin." As if responding to her words, the wall nearest to Daniel rippled, forming a concave surface that showed the outside world like a distorted mirror. He could see the woods where they'd been standing, now bathed in an eerie white glow. 3 figures moved through the trees, tall, slender, their forms obscured by blinding light that seemed to emanate from within them. "Who are they?" Daniel whispered, pressing closer to the wall despite himself. "My handlers," the girl replied, her voice tight. "They think I've gone rogue." One of the figures stopped suddenly, its featureless face turning toward the ship. Daniel instinctively stepped back, his heart hammering. "Can they see us?" The girl placed a hand against the wall. The image shimmered and changed, zooming in on the figure's face, or where a face should be. Instead, there was only smooth, glowing skin stretched over what might have been a skull, with no mouth, no nose, just 2 dark slits where eyes should be. Daniel swallowed hard. "Jesus Christ. They're not like me," the girl said quietly. "They're older, purer. They don't understand why I would protect you." "Why did you?" Daniel turned to face her fully. "You said they sent you to study me. So what changed?" The girl hesitated, her star-filled eyes darting away. "Your memories," she admitted. "The way you remember her. The way you—" She struggled with the word. "Feel. We don't have that. Not really." A loud thud shook the ship, making Daniel stumble. The figures outside were closer now, moving with unnatural speed toward them. "They've found us," the girl said, her voice rising in alarm. The wall screen flickered violently, then dissolved into static before reforming into an image of Daniel's living room. His real living room, back in his house. Lillian's favorite blanket was still draped over the couch where she'd left it. Daniel's breath caught. "How are you? Focus." The girl grabbed his shoulders, her grip surprisingly strong. "I can get you home, but you need to listen carefully. They'll come for you. They'll try to take the memories, all of them, not just the ones of her." Another impact rocked the ship, harder this time. Something screeched against the outer hull like metal on metal. "What do you want me to do?" Daniel asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The girl's form flickered again, and for a split second, Lillian stood before him, warm, alive, her brown eyes filled with tears. "Remember me," she said in Lillian's voice. Then the illusion shattered, and the alien girl was back, her expression desperate. "No matter what they show you, no matter what they make you see, hold on to her." The ship's walls began to vibrate, the hum rising to an almost unbearable pitch. The girl shoved Daniel backward toward a newly formed opening in the wall, a doorway swirling with dark energy. "Wait!" Daniel grabbed her wrist. "What's your name?" For the first time, something like a real smile touched her lips. "You already gave me one," she said. "In your memories." Then, with a strength that shouldn't have been possible, she hurled him into the void. Daniel had just enough time to hear her shout one last warning. "Don't trust anything that looks like me," before the darkness swallowed him whole. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was the ship collapsing in on itself like a dying star, and the glowing figures descending upon it with terrifying purpose. Daniel's body hit solid ground with a bone-jarring thud, the impact knocking the wind from his lungs. He gasped, rolling onto his back as the familiar texture of his driveway gravel bit into his skin. The night air smelled of pine and damp earth. Normal, earthly smells that should have been comforting. But nothing about this was normal. "You okay there, buddy?" The voice sent ice water through Daniel's veins. He knew that voice better than his own. Scrambling to his feet, he turned to see Lillian leaning against their porch railing, her familiar flannel pajamas fluttering in the breeze, her dark hair falling in waves around her shoulders. The porch light haloed her silhouette, the same light she always nagged him about leaving on. Daniel's hands trembled at his sides. "This isn't real." Lillian, no, the thing wearing Lillian's face, pushed off the railing with a soft laugh. "Of course it's real, Dan. You hit your head pretty hard out there." She pointed toward the woods where faint white light still pulsed between the trees. "You were sleepwalking again. Nearly walked right into a tree." Daniel took an unsteady step back. The details were perfect. The chipped pink polish on her toenails, the way she tucked her hair behind her left ear when nervous, even the slight crook in her smile from where she'd chipped a tooth as a kid. But the alien girl's warning echoed in his mind. "Don't trust anything that looks like me. Prove you're her," Daniel demanded, his voice rough. Lillian's smile faltered. "Since when do I need to prove? Tell me something only she would know." Right now, a shadow passed behind Lillian's eyes. For a fraction of a second, her pupils dilated into black pools flecked with stars, just like the alien girl's. Then it was gone. "You proposed at Miller's Pond," she said softly. "You were so nervous you dropped the ring in the water. We had to wait to find it, and you stopped." Daniel's chest ached. "That's not proof. That's from my memories." The porch light flickered violently. When it steadied, Lillian stood inches from him, her breath warm against his face. "Too warm. Human. Then ask me something new, Danny. Something you've never told anyone." The woods behind them crackled with energy. The white light was getting brighter, closer. Daniel could feel static raising the hairs on his arms. "Why are they doing this?" he whispered. Lillian's hand cupped his cheek, her touch exactly as he remembered. "Because they want to understand what makes you different. Why your grief called to her when millions of others didn't." Her thumb brushed his cheekbone. "But I can protect you. Just let me in." The moment stretched. Daniel wanted to believe, God, how he wanted to. Then he noticed it. The slightest delay in her blinking, like a machine processing data. In her pulse. When he glanced at her neck, there wasn't one. Daniel recoiled. "You're one of them." Lillian's face twisted in something like sorrow. "We're all one of them, Danny. Even her." She gestured to the woods where the alien girl's ship had been. She just forgot for a little while. The front door creaked open on its own. Inside, the house looked perfect. Lillian's shoes by the door, her favorite mug on the coffee table. A trap, meticulously crafted. "Come inside," not Lillian urged, reaching for his hand. "It's not safe out here." Daniel backed toward the driveway, his pulse roaring in his ears. The alien girl's final warning played on a loop in his mind. He had to get to the woods, had to find the ship. As if reading his thoughts, Lillian's expression hardened. The porch light shattered in a rain of glass. When she spoke again, her voice layered with something inhuman. "You really should listen to your wife, Daniel." Then the world tilted. The house, the trees, the stars, everything stretched like taffy before snapping back into focus. Only now, 5 more Lillians stood on the porch, identical down to the sleep crease on her right cheek. They stepped forward in unison, their movements perfectly synchronized. "You're tired," they said together. "Come home." Daniel turned and ran. Behind him, the chorus of Lillians erupted into a sound no human throat could make. A shriek like radio static and tearing metal. He didn't look back. Couldn't. The woods loomed ahead, the white light now so bright it burned his eyes. As his feet pounded across the lawn, a new sound joined the chaos. a deep, resonant hum vibrating up from the earth itself. The alien girl's ship was calling to him, or maybe it was warning him. Either way, Daniel knew one thing for certain. The real nightmare was just beginning. Daniel's lungs burned as he crashed through the underbrush, branches whipping at his arms like grasping fingers. The unnatural white light pulsed through the trees ahead, growing brighter with each pounding heartbeat. Behind him, the chorus of Lillian's voices had morphed into a single, piercing tone that drilled into his skull. "Daniel!" The voices called in perfect unison, their words vibrating through the ground beneath his feet. "You can't outrun us." A root caught his ankle, sending him sprawling face first into the damp earth. He rolled onto his back just in time to see them. 5 perfect copies of his dead wife stepping through the trees without disturbing a single leaf. Their movements were synchronized, mechanical, like marionettes controlled by the same invisible strings. The humming on the ground grew louder. The air smelled like ozone and something sweet like rotting fruit. "Get away from me!" Daniel scrambled backward, his hands sinking into the cold mud. The nearest Lillian tilted her head, her dark hair falling to one side. "We're trying to help you, Danny." "She lied to you." A sharp pain lanced through Daniel's temple as the ship's hum suddenly changed pitch, becoming a distorted scream of metal. The ground trembled, and for a split second, the Lillians flickered, their faces melting into smooth, featureless masks before snapping back. Daniel used the distraction to lunge to his feet. He turned toward the light and ran straight into a solid wall of glowing white. The impact sent him reeling backward. The figure loomed over him, its elongated limbs stretching too far, its blank face inches from his. Up close, Daniel could see its skin wasn't skin at all, but thousands of tiny, shifting particles like liquid mercury. Subject displays unusual resistance. The figure intoned in a voice that wasn't a voice, more like words formed directly in Daniel's mind. Proceeding with full extraction. Cold fingers clamped around Daniel's skull. White fire exploded behind his eyes as his memories ripped through him in a dizzying flood. Lillian laughing in the rain. Lillian crying at their wedding. Lillian's last rattling breath in the hospital bed. "No," Daniel thrashed, but the creature's grip was iron. "Stop!" A deafening crack split the air. The creature's head jerked sideways as something small and dark embedded itself in its temple. Black fluid oozed from the wound. Daniel twisted free just as a second projectile whizzed past his ear, striking the creature's chest. It staggered back with a sound like shattering glass. "Move your ass, Carter!" The voice came from the trees. A woman stepped into the clearing, her black tactical gear nearly invisible in the shadows. She fired again, the modified rifle in her hands spitting strange, jagged projectiles that pulsed with blue light. The remaining Lillians turned in eerie unison as the newcomer advanced. "Ah," they said together. The defective unit returns. The alien girl, now clad in human combat gear, her starry eyes blazing, flashed Daniel a fierce grin. "Told you not to trust them." She tossed him a second weapon, identical to hers. Daniel caught it awkwardly, the metal warm and humming in his hands. "What the hell is this?" "Memory," the girl said, firing at the nearest Lillian. The projectile hit its mark, and the mimic exploded into swirling black mist. Pure, concentrated memory, the one thing they can assimilate. The remaining creatures shrieked, their forms melting and reforming into something taller, sharper, no longer pretending to be human. The leader's voice boomed through the trees. "You will be erased." The alien girl pressed her back against Daniel's, her breath hot in his ear. "Think of her," she urged. "Think of Lillian. Really think, and pull the damn trigger." Daniel raised the weapon as the creatures surged forward. He closed his eyes and remembered. The rifle came alive in his hands, its hum syncing with his heartbeat. When he opened his eyes, The projectiles weren't bullets at all, but fragments of light shaped like his most cherished moments. They tore through the advancing figures like shrapnel made of love and loss. The forest erupted in a storm of screaming shadows and shattered light. Somewhere in the chaos, the alien girl grabbed his arm and shouted over the din, "Now we run." As they crashed through the trees, Daniel risked one glance back. The creatures were reforming, their liquid bodies swirling together into something larger, something hungrier, and it was following. Daniel's boots pounded against the forest floor, each step sending jolts of pain up his bruised legs. The alien girl, no, Ava, she called herself during their frantic escape, moved like a shadow beside him, her glowing rifle casting eerie blue highlights across the trees. The thing behind them didn't run so much as flow, its liquid form swallowing the distance between them with terrifying speed. "Where are we going?" Daniel gasped, ducking under a low-hanging branch. Ava's star-filled eyes flickered toward him, somewhere they can't follow. A sharp pain lanced through Daniel's temple as another memory forced its way to the surface. Lillian's hand in his as they walked through these same woods years ago, her laughter echoing between the trees. The rifle in his hands pulsed in response, its hum deepening. Ava noticed and grabbed his arm. "Focus. Your memories are giving a trail to follow." The creature behind them shrieked, the sound vibrating through Daniel's bones. He risked a glance back and immediately wished he hadn't. The thing had grown, its form now towering above the treetops, countless featureless faces bubbling up from its surface before disappearing again. Ava suddenly skidded to a stop, nearly sending Daniel sprawling. They stood at the edge of Miller's Pond, the moonlit water perfectly still. "Are you kidding me?" Daniel wheezed. "We're trapped." Ava didn't answer. Instead, she raised her rifle and fired into the water. The blue projectile hit the surface with a sound like shattering glass, and the pond parted, revealing a glowing tunnel beneath. Daniel stared. "What the hell? No time." Ava shoved him forward. "Jump!" The creature was nearly upon them, its massive form blotting out the stars. Daniel didn't think. He leaped. The cold hit him like a fist, then vanished as suddenly as it came. He tumbled through shimmering blue space, the world twisting around him until he landed hard on a smooth, metallic surface. Ava materialized beside him, her hair floating around her face as if underwater. "Welcome to the in-between," she said, helping him up. Daniel gaped at their surroundings. They stood in a vast, dome-shaped chamber with translucent walls that showed distorted images of Earth, his house, the woods, even glimpses of his past flickering like reflections in a funhouse mirror. Ava moved to a control panel that looked grown rather than built, its surface alive with pulsing veins of light. "This is my safe house." Or it was. Her fingers danced across the surface. "They'll find us soon." Daniel's head spun. "What is this place? And why do they want my memories so badly?" Ava paused, her starry eyes dimming. "Because humans remember differently than we do. You don't just store data, you feel it. You change with it." She gestured to the walls where images of Lillian now played on loop. "Well, I took your wife's form. I didn't just copy her. For a moment, I was her. I felt what she felt, loved how she loved." A deep tremor shook the chamber. Cracks spiderwebbed across one wall, revealing glimpses of that terrible white light beyond. "They can't allow that," Ava continued, her voice urgent. "To them, it's corruption. But to me," she reached out, hesitantly brushing Daniel's cheek. "It was the first real thing I've ever known." The crack spread. The creature's voice boomed through the chamber, shaking the very air. "Found you." Ava's expression hardened. She grabbed Daniel's hand and pressed it against the control panel. "There's one way out of this, but you won't like it." The panel warmed beneath his touch, responding to his pulse. Images flooded his mind. Ava's ship, the creatures, 1,000 scattered memories, not his own. "What do I need to do?" Daniel asked, bracing as another quake rocked the chamber. Ava's form flickered, and for a heartbeat, Lillian stood before him again, but her eyes remained Ava's, swirling with galaxies. "You need to forget her," she said softly. "Just for a little while." The walls shattered. The creature poured in like a tidal wave of liquid light. And as the world dissolved around them, Daniel made his choice. The moment Daniel made his decision, time fractured. White light swallowed everything. The chamber, the creature, even Ava's outstretched hand. For one terrible instant, Daniel felt his memories unraveling, threads of Lillian slipping through his fingers like smoke. Their first kiss, her laugh, the way she'd hum off-key in the shower. He clutched at them desperately, but they dissolved all the same. Then silence. Daniel blinked. He was standing in his backyard, the pre-dawn sky streaked with pale pink. The air smelled of dew and freshly cut grass. His head throbbed, his body ached, and his hands were empty. "What the hell?" he muttered, turning in a slow circle. "No ship, no creatures, no Ava." The back door creaked open. "Daniel? You okay out here?" His breath caught. Lillian stood in the doorway, bathed in golden porch light, her hair sleep mussed and her favorite robe hanging loose around her shoulders. Real. Alive. Daniel's legs nearly gave out. "Lil." She frowned, stepping onto the grass. "You're shaking. Did you have another nightmare?" Nightmare. The word rattled around his skull. Was that all it had been? He glanced toward the woods. Just trees, no scorch marks, no crater. But his skin still tingled where Ava had touched him. Lillian's cool fingers brushed his cheek. "Hey, look at me." Daniel forced himself to meet her eyes. Warm brown, familiar, human. No swirling galaxies. No stars. "You were talking in your sleep again," she murmured. Something about a ship and a girl. A jolt of adrenaline shot through him. "What did I say?" "Just nonsense." She smiled softly. "Come inside. I'll make coffee." Daniel let her lead him back to the house, his mind racing. The kitchen was exactly as he remembered. Lillian's half-finished crossword on the table. The chip in the tile near the fridge from when they'd moved in. Normal. Perfect. Too perfect. Lillian busied herself with the coffee maker, her back to him. "You want pancakes?" "I think we have blueberries," Daniel finished automatically. "You always want blueberries." A beat of silence. Lillian's shoulders tensed. Then she turned, and Daniel's blood turned to ice. Her eyes were black. Not empty black. Alive black, dense with swirling constellations, exactly like Ava's. "You remember," she whispered. Daniel stumbled back, knocking over a chair. "You're not her. This isn't real." "Lillian." "No." Ava, wearing Lillian's face, shook her head. "It's real enough. I rebuilt it from your memories. A pocket universe, just for us." She gestured to the window, where the sun hung motionless in the sky. "They can't reach us here." Daniel's chest tightened. Outside, the trees stood perfectly still. No wind, no birds. A painted backdrop. "What?" His voice cracked. "Why do this?" Ava looked down at her hands, Lillian's hands, flexing the fingers as if testing them. "Because you were right. They were erasing you. So I saved what I could." She met his gaze, stars flickering in her eyes. "But I couldn't save everything." A memory slammed into Daniel. Ava shoving him toward the portal, the creature's claws tearing through her back. Her final whisper, "Remember me." His knees buckled. "You died." Ava nodded. "And you forgot. Just like we planned." She touched the coffee mug on the counter. Lillian's favorite, the one that said world's okayest wife. "But some part of you knew. That's why you kept dreaming about me." The truth settled over Daniel like a weight. This wasn't his world. Lillian wasn't alive. And Ava had sacrificed herself to trap him inside his own happiest memory. Forever. Outside, the frozen sun began to crack, black veins spreading across its surface. Ava gasped. "They found us." She grabbed Daniel's hands. "There's one last way out, but you have to wake up." "Ow!" Ava smiled, Lillian's smile, but with Ava's sadness behind it. The same way you always do. She kissed him, and Daniel remembered everything. The world shattered. He woke up screaming, sprawled in the wreckage of the alien ship, the real sun rising over scorched earth. No Lillian, no Ava, just the echo of a voice in the wind. Keep remembering. Daniel sat up, tears cutting through the dirt on his face. In his pocket, something hummed, a small blue shard of the rifle, still warm, still alive. And in the distance, a shadow moved between the trees. Not running, waiting. And that was the end of the story. Comment below if you want the next chapter, and hit that like button. Please subscribe, turn on the bell, and as always, keep the last light burning.